I've got an update on Phil Haney, and I also have some information about various things that are going on with the Department of Justice. So stick with me, folks, and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I know a lot of you, when I did the piece on Phil Haney, you gave me lots of information in the comments and said that you knew about other videos and everything that were on YouTube. Well, here's one that's on Facebook, and I believe this was the last one that he did, this particular interview. At least that's what they claim here. This was Philip Haney's last broadcast with Denise, his fiance, on the Denise Gary show. So if you watch the other video, that gave you a lot of background. And then down here it says, dealing here with the United States strategic partnership with India. And again, also about China, Iran, and Pakistan, and how they're connected with India and everything. So this is, kind of dealing with a little different aspect of what he dealt with in the other video that I recommended, which was predominantly about Muslims. But this right here gives you more insight into what was going on here with these countries. It was very interesting, too, that here's a link, his latest publication on the subject down here. Well, if you take that, it takes you to this publication right here. It's a 56-page publication, and it's about U.S.-Iran conflict, impact on Indian economy and defense budget. So thought that was kind of interesting. It has various articles. Well, he wrote one together with this J.M. Phelps on fluctuating power. And so that one you can find over here. It has a sidebar about him. There he is. And the article starts actually back up here. So fluctuating power, and you can read about that. And, there's just so much when it comes to all the different countries. The United States is not isolated. And I think we all know that now, that all these different countries are interconnected in different ways. And so it takes a lot of understanding of all the different factions and how all the countries are working to really understand everything that's going on. And he says, this is about refreshing partnerships between India and the U.S. have signaled a long-standing alliance where economies and defenses will benefit both countries for many years to come. And remember, he was part of the intelligence community, and he was a whistleblower and ended up leaving his job because he kind of got pressured to leave. So, he had everything, and then he suspiciously passed away just recently. Well, here's a little bit of an update on that, because this particular one has a new update from the sheriff's office. Now, in the previous video, I did show you a press release from the sheriff's office. I mean, this same sheriff's office here, and it said that it was ruled a self-inflicted wound. Well, now they're backtracking on that. This came out on the 24th, and this is a coroner's investigation update, which I thought it was interesting in the last one, because they said it was self-inflicted, but then they said the investigation was ongoing. And it's like, well, if it was self-inflicted, why are you continuing with the investigation? And I also raised the question that how did they know so fast? Because he died, I believe, on the 21st, and the other press release came out on the 22nd. So it was like, how did you know so fast? Did they have chance to do an autopsy in that time? I don't think so. So I thought it was very suspicious with the timing. Well, anyway, they're saying that, on February 22nd, the Amador County Sheriff's Office released initial details regarding Philip Haney being found deceased in our jurisdiction. Mr. Haney was located in a park and ride open area immediately adjacent to State Highway 16 near State Highway 124. Highway 16 is a busy state highway and used as a main travel route to and from Sacramento. The location is less than 3 miles from where he was living. Currently, we have scheduled a forensic autopsy to be performed by forensic pathologists from the Sacramento County Coroner's Office. So they did not have an autopsy yet. Additionally, we have reached out to our law enforcement partners in the Federal Bureau of Investigation to assist in analyzing documents, phone records, and a laptop that were recovered from the scene and Mr. Haney's RV. Now, the initial reports that I read said that they did not recover anything, that all of his notes and everything were missing. So, very interesting. We are currently in possession of his vehicle, the firearm located at the scene, and his RV, and we will be requesting evidence processing assistance from the FBI on those items as well. Our investigators conducted a neighborhood canvass and interviewed his RV park neighbors on the day of the incident, along with checking key areas for any video surveillance that may exist from that time. The investigators are continuing to follow up with the overwhelming number of persons who are calling our office from throughout the United States asking for detailed information on our investigation. I think that is huge because patriots were not going to let this one go. And from what I'm seeing here, it appears that they were just going to say, it was self-inflicted and go on. And then all of a sudden people started saying, oh, no, that didn't happen. This is very suspicious and needs to be questioned. And so, yeah, I think that's very interesting. Calling our office from throughout the United States. Unfortunately, there was misinformation immediately being put out that we have determined Mr. Haney's death to be a suicide. Well, yes, that's what the statement said. I mean, they almost make it sound there like, well, we didn't put that misinformation out. Yeah, I saw the press release. It did. It said that it was. This is not the case. We are currently in the beginning phase of our investigation, and any final determination as to the cause and manner of Mr. Haney's death would be extremely premature and inappropriate. Well, but you said that in your press release. Oh. No determination will be made until all evidence is examined and analyzed. The investigation is still active and will be ongoing. No further details will be provided at this time. In other words, they got caught. Yeah, because people all over the country knew about this guy and they knew what was going on. And they literally called these people and let them know that saying it was a self-inflicted wound wasn't going to fly. So I just think that was very interesting. And I thought I'd share that with you. All of these links are going to be down below, folks. I have several of them. And just lots of stuff going on. And speaking of people who die in an untimely fashion, check out this guy. This was put out on February 26. Rollover crash claims the life of a political and pro-life campaigner. Now, this guy was pro-life, but he was a Democrat. Okay, and who was he going up against? Oh, well, he was against Cicillini, where I guess it doesn't say here, but I did see it in another place that he was a challenger to Cicillini's position. I think he's Rhode Island. Is that where he's from? I don't recall. But yeah, Rhode Island. There it is. And I don't know if you know Cicillini. I always think of him. He talks with a really high voice. So whenever he starts talking on the floor in the house, I always know it's him. Yep, that's Cicillini. So anyway, I just thought this was, timely, I guess. Very interesting. So kind of makes you wonder on that. And anyway, so I'll leave the link down below. You can read the whole thing. I found this on Twitter, and I just thought the article was really good. It's from the Federalist. And this crew went down there to try to, do like a documentary, and they were doing it on socialism. Well, if you go to Google and you put in Cuba, you're going to see all these beautiful pictures, tropical climate and beautiful buildings. And of course, they're really nice 50s cars. Yeah, well, what it doesn't tell you is that the reason they have cars from the 50s is because they don't have any new cars coming in. And that's the last time they had cars coming in. That's what they look like. And they take very, very good care of their cars because it's the only car they're going to get. So any car that is in Cuba, they take extremely good care of. And they're always looking nice and polished and everything. But anyway, so this crew went there, and I've got to tell you, at first they thought, well, when they were looking over all the Google pictures, oh, this is going to be tough. How do you show that socialism doesn't work? Communism, actually, doesn't work when you have all these beautiful pictures and it looks like it's such an idyllic place to go. Yeah, then they got there and it was almost a nightmare. So, our morning had begun with armed government agents storming our rental house in Havana and demanding access to our rooms and camera gear. Yeah, I mean, this is just, when you see it, it's amazing. And you can read through this. They have a video here that was worth watching. But yeah, and the things that you see when you listen to Bernie Sanders or when you go to Google and you type it in, it's a lie. It's all a lie because they want to make socialism look wonderful. And the thing is, it's not. And they had trouble getting gas. They had trouble, and obviously not all of their cars are old, but you do see a lot of 50s cars. And the reason is because new cars are just outrageously expensive and everything. So, yeah, Cuba's not working as well as they would like. And part of the reason, I always used to tell my students, there's one of them right there. I used to tell my students that the thing with Cuba was, it's a little different than what happens like with the Hispanics that are coming up, the Latinos that come up over the southern border, like in Arizona and everything. And the reason is because the people who were business owners in Cuba saw it coming and they got out because they knew if they stayed in Cuba, they were going to have all of their money and their businesses and everything taken over by the government. And they didn't want that. So they came to the United States and they built businesses here. So it's a little different than a lot of the people that come up from like Guatemala or El Salvador or Honduras because they don't have that business experience. They're not that business class that's coming up. It's usually the poor people that will make that trip, or a lot of the people that are involved in the drug cartels and, running drugs. So it's a totally different type of immigration that happened with the Cuban Americans than with a lot of the others. And so that's something that you have to remember. But because a lot of those entrepreneurs came to the United States, it left Cuba without a lot of those richer people and the people that could sustain the culture, because you see, communism and socialism really rely heavily on having people who make a lot of money, because if you don't have people that make a lot of money, how can you tax them and take it away from them to give to the poor people? Well, you can't. And so you've just got a bunch of poor people where everybody's just poor. I'm not saying that nobody in Cuba has money, but the majority of people are struggling, and the reason they're struggling is because of their form of government. So anyway, I'll leave the link to that down below. I really do think that video is worth watching and reading through this article. That was an experience they had, not one that you want to have, I guess. And then I wanted to put this one in because I'm kind of dealing with different lawsuits and things happening right now. And this is one of them that was a lawsuit. Outside of Chicago, there's a Christian college called Wheaton College, and it's in Wheaton, Illinois. Here's what happened. It's close to Chicago, within driving distance, probably 45 minutes, maybe? I don't know. It's a suburb. And the students there at Wheaton College quite often will go to downtown Chicago to practice, some of their ministering skills and to talk to people about Christ and, give them opportunities to hear the gospel. And a lot of times they will have singing groups, then they'll sing a little bit, and then they'll have somebody who gives a little talk. And it's very common. I mean, this is what they do. Well, this is what the kids were doing. And guess what? The security in that particular area, that particular park, said, no, you can't do that. So, you read through this, it's really kind of irritating. They went to this Millennium Park, which is, a pretty major thing in Chicago. And the park security said, no, you can't do that. And it was like, what do you mean we can't? We can't talk about our religion. We can't hand out religious literature. And notice what it says here, which they had done every Friday. I mean, this is something that Wheaton College would do all the time. So this was not unusual. It's just somebody got their nose out of joint. I don't know who it was. But they tried to say that the city views the park as a unique space, one that showcases world-class art, music, architecture, and landscape design. Accordingly, the city enacted restrictions it claims protects the park's aesthetic integrity. And so they were trying to say that the park consisted not of a single undifferentiated space, but rather of several subspaces or rooms, differentiated by, among other things, lines of trees or other foliage, changes in topography, and changes in the color of walking surfaces. As if that made a difference. So I guess if you have a park where it's got like some trees or some bushes or things that may separate parts of the park from another part, then you no longer have free speech to talk about your religion. I guess that's what they were trying to say. You can read through the whole thing here. What happened, they were informed that they had to stop evangelizing at that point. Swart informed security staff that because they were on a public sidewalk, they had the right to continue speaking. A security guard insisted he was just doing his job and informed the students they could speak to a supervisor. And so it escalated, and it got really bad. And down here, on one occasion, park employees prohibited them from evangelizing near the bean. And if you haven't seen the bean, it's like a big thing in the center of there. On another occasion, a park employee informed them they could not discuss religion in the park and ordered them to leave the park if they wished to speak about religion. Serious? What's going on here? And so, obviously, they won, which is nice. But it's crazy. This right here, the judge concluded, in sum, the city may not, by its own ipse dixit, destroy the public forum status of parks. Although the city insists a curated design divests the park of its traditional public nature, which is still stupid, this court cannot accept this characterization based upon the facts here. Indeed, if a quote, curated design were enough to transform the nature of the forum, any park with a statue could lose its First Amendment protections. The law precludes this absurd result. Thank goodness for a judge with common sense. So, after the ruling had been issued, Chong, one of the students, stated, "This is about getting the gospel to people because we love them. If somebody believes that the Willis Tower is going to collapse in an hour, it doesn't matter what they believe," adding that it was a calling to run into the building and warn people that it's going to collapse. And really, that's what evangelism is all about, where we know the truth and we want to tell other people. And so you don't think about all these rules and everything that are going on. It's not going to matter because there's a serious danger and we want to let people know about it. Anyway, so all of these links will be down below. You can read the whole thing on your own. This was an interesting statement that came out today from the press secretary, and it was about one of the rulings that happened. Sanctuary jurisdictions deliberately imperil the safety of American people by releasing criminal aliens into city streets instead of handing them over to federal authorities. Since taking office, President Trump has made clear that his administration would not allow these lawless jurisdictions to heartlessly inflict pain and suffering into our communities. Today's unanimous decision by the Second Circuit upholds the Department of Justice's lawful authority to require jurisdictions that receive federal grant money under the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program to obey the law and not impede the removal of criminal aliens. We are pleased by the court's decision and remain committed to ensuring that no jurisdiction has license to nullify federal law or deprive American citizens of their fundamental rights. So, yay, that was a big victory. Of course, it can be appealed, and we'll see what happens if they do that. But for now, yeah, all these sanctuary cities, we can say, you're not getting federal money. And that's going to put the real squeeze on them. This was something else that happened today, really important. The Department of Justice creates section dedicated to denaturalization cases. So guess what? If you are terrorists, war criminals, sex offenders, and other fraudsters, you can lose your citizenship. And I thought this was very interesting because if you go down here, it says, while the Office of Immigration Litigation already has achieved great success in the denaturalization cases it has brought, winning 95% of them, the growing number of referrals anticipated from law enforcement agencies, do you see that? Anticipated? They're getting ready for something here. Okay? Agencies motivated the creation of a standalone section dedicated to this important work. They're setting things up. You know, I do understand that people are frustrated and they want to see everything done all at once. But, you know, if you're a chess player, you understand that sometimes you've got to go for a little bit to get your board set up just right so you can do that checkmate. Well, I think that's what's happening right now. People are being put in place where they need to be. I mean, that's what the whole purge thing is going on, you know, and even in the Pentagon, I saw that today, that they're ousting people from the Pentagon too, you know, the never Trumpers and people that are deep state. So they're getting rid of them and they're cleaning things up in the other departments. Yeah, it's going on. They're putting all their little pieces into the place where they need to be. And this is one of the pieces that they needed. And that anticipated there, that's huge. Anticipated. So there's going to be some big things going on. And you know, when I was reading this, I thought, okay, so these people who are naturalized citizens, then they can be denaturalized. Okay, and here are some examples of the ones they did. Of course, they have to take them to court to do that. Understand that. Here are some successful ones that they had done, and you can look at those. And here's some on war crimes and human rights violators, sex offenders, fraudsters, and other criminals. So those are some of the reasons why people can be denaturalized and lose their citizenship. And I got to thinking, well, can, like natural born people, can they lose their citizenship? Can I lose my citizenship? What would it take? Well, here's the answer. Renounce or lose your U.S. citizenship. You will no longer be an American citizen if you voluntarily give up or renounce your U.S. citizenship. You might lose your U.S. citizenship in specific cases, including if you run for public office in a foreign country under certain conditions, enter military service in a foreign country under certain conditions, apply for citizenship in a foreign country with the intention of giving up U.S. citizenship, or commit an act of treason against the United States. Again, remember, things are being set up. And you remember back here it says the anticipated referrals from law enforcement agencies. Just thought I'd toss that out there because it does seem interesting. Okay, and then this is another one that came out on the 26th, and I thought you'd be interested in this. Former executive director of nonprofit sentenced for illegally diverting charity funds to unnamed state senator and convicted lobbyist. Okay, this happened in Arkansas, and it is a state senator So it's not like the U.S. senator, one of the two, because then it'd be like, oh, well, it's one of those two people. But no, there's several state senators. So they don't name them. An unnamed Arkansas state senator. Gee, Arkansas. I wonder if they know Bill and Hill. Anyway, yeah, it took a lot of money here. $380,000. Unlawfully divert that from the charity to an Arkansas state senator and the lobbying firm of a convicted lobbyist. So, yes, folks, people are being arrested. It's just they're not the big names yet. Okay? So there are people that are being taken to task here. I just want to let you know that. All right, the last thing I want to share with you is this. This is Bill Barr spoke at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention today, and it was a very good speech. It doesn't start until about 14 minutes in, and I recommend that you watch this instead of the Fox News, because the Fox News sound, they didn't have their microphones right, because you heard it like it was bouncing all over the place in there, and it was not coming through the mic itself. It was just the ambient sound it was awful. It was really hard to follow him because the sound was just so horrible. So this was a very good speech. When you get into this, he has three basic parts that he talks about. He talks about religious liberties and how important religion really is in keeping our culture moral. And I thought he did a really good job with that. And then he also talked about the press. That was the really big part that you'll want to make sure that you listen to. It's about 45 minutes in, somewhere in there. And very interesting. It's kind of weird. This is a local station because, they don't have, if you look at this, it has 210 views when I'm showing this. I don't know. It may have more now because I haven't refreshed the page for a little while. But yeah, so it was a good speech. I thought it was very good. And the part about the press, though, you might want to watch that because he really did say that we need to have a free press. But the key to having a free press is you've got to have many voices. And if you don't have many voices, then it's not a free press anymore because they're all speaking with the same voice. And this is what happened in our country, that we allowed our press to get to the point where it was owned by the same few people and everybody says the same thing. And that's just not going to be what you want if you want your country to remain free. You need all the different voices. And it's great that there's an opportunity now for people like me to be able to add my voice to what's happening and, my perspective. And there's all these different publications now that are online that you can see, the Epoch Times, the Breitbart and the Conservative Treehouse. All of these different outlets are so important to allowing us to hear the different perspectives. And this is what the media fears the most, because they can't stand losing their power to people like me, and I don't see myself as being anything big or great or anything like that. I just happen to have time to be able to look through and find things that I can help present to you in a short amount of time and save you the time so you don't have to go do it yourself. And you can use your time then doing your job and having fun with your family and all that. So that's kind of, my role. I see it as being a servant, to be able to serve you what I can find and to help inform you. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. All the links will be down below, just like usual. They're in the description, so you'll have to click the little triangle or the show more or something like that to make it pop open. But they'll all be there, and you can check them out for yourself. Especially this, I recommend it. It was a good speech. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.